if you like sacking your creatures, if you like bringing them back from the dead, then this Shirei Shizo's Caretaker deck is perfect for you. But before we get into the deck tech, there's always 3 rules of Nerd Club. The first rule of Nerd Club is that it must be fun. The deck must be between $50 and $70. And you must be able to win. Rule number 2. This channel is about saving money. We don't go out there buying cards that we don't know if we even like playing the deck. So we always print out the cards and proxy them first, and then we play it for a bit, and then we buy the cards once we're happy with the deck. And rule number 3. We take no mercy. We don't apologise for making a play that wins us the game. Without further ado, let's get into the deck tech. So, the commander is Shirei Shizo's Caretaker. It is a legendary creature spirit. Whenever a creature with power 1 or less is put into your graveyard from the battlefield, you may return that card to the battlefield at the beginning of the next end step, if Shirei Shizo's Caretaker is still on the battlefield. This card is great because it not only does it on your end step, but it also does it on your opponent's end step. So there's lots of different things going from my head. All we want to do is make sure we can sacrifice creatures with power 1 or less, and then we can bring them back from the graveyard at the end of each end step. So if we can sacrifice them on other people's turns at the same time, this deck is going to be amazing. First things first, what we do is we go to our Mox field. We go to create a new deck. Put the commander in. And then we put it private. And there we have it. There's our deck. Starting off, I always put 36 lands in. Then we can always put more in or less, depending on what we actually want to have in the deck. There we go. 37 cards taken up already. Now what I generally try and do is go to YouTube, see other people's videos. I like to watch other people's videos and see how they play the cards and just see what sort of like concepts they've got on the commander itself. I generally watch it, then I come down to the comments below, and I always like to see it when they're in Mox field. So I always look at the deck list, see if I can get inspiration from the cards that other people put in their decks. This is a great little budgie, look, $20. I actually quite like this channel. The Commander Void. He always does good videos. So he's got a few creatures here. So you think, oh, okay, let's see what he's got. So this here, when it's put into a graveyard from play, each player chooses and buries a creature he or she controls. Well, that's great. You can get other people getting rid of their board. So we'll copy that. Then you come back over to your deck. Paste it into here. And hey presto, there's another one. Then we'll have a keep looking around and see what other cards. What we want to do is have ETBs, and we want things when they enter the battlefield, they either do damage, get them to discard cards, get them to sacrifice creatures. We want every single time a creature comes in, it does something to the other opponents or gives us life. We want to try and maybe put a target on our backs because we are doing that much horrible things to them. What is there here? So we've got this one here. Enter the battlefield, you draw a card and lose a life. Awesome. You want to draw cards? You want to get your win cons out? Copy that. Bring it over here. And then you paste it into the deck. And there's another card. And then you keep doing that, looking through them, you think, oh yeah, oh, there's a bit of Rampler. So when Pilgrim Eye enters the battlefield, you may search your library for a basic land card, reveal it, and put it into your hand, then shuffle. That is awesome. It's doing a bit of ramp every time, not just on your turn, on other people. So you, in one turn of bringing that out, you could end up with yours, then 3 other players. So if you're playing 4 people, you could end up with 4 lands in your hand. Well, that's a great bit of ramp. At least you know then every single turn you've got at least 1 mana drop every turn. Paste that in. And all the cards seem to be pretty cheap as well. It seems to be that Shirei Shizo's Caretaker has got perfect amount of 1 power creatures. Everywhere you look there's loads, and I've actually been going through quite a few, and I've noticed this deck you could probably build 3 different ways. There's that many cards. Then once you finish with that, you go okay, then you maybe watch another video on YouTube and you think, okay, they've got a few decent cards, maybe I'll try them as well. So if I just look at this one, there's quite a few that do it. You don't necessarily have to watch the videos, but I like to watch a few first just to see how they play them. And then once you have got a few cards, you can then decide to go to EDH Rec. You put the commander in, and you obviously come down and see what cards are good. So this is good luck. When it enters the battlefield, each opponent discards a card. Well, if you can do that on every single turn, so you bring it on mine, you bring it on the 3 opponents, they've lost 4 cards within the space of 1 round. Do you know how vital that could be to winning or losing the game? If they get rid of 4 cards that they obviously need for their win con, or if they need for, you know, the next turn, they might have to discard a mana and end up needing that mana to bring out their card. So that's definitely a add. Then we've got a bit of instants and stuff where you additional cost you want to sacrifice a creature. Well, that's great. Draw 2 cards because you can bring that back. Then high synergy cards here, like Serrated Scorpion. Whenever it dies, deals 2 damage to each opponent and you gain 2 life. Well, that's pretty damn good. Because at the end of the day, you're sacrificing that creature, they do 2 damage to every person. Then you gain 2 life. And on the next person's turn, lose 2 life, you gain 2 life. Within the space of 1 round, they've lost 8 life. You do that, what, a few times? Great stuff. Well, if you had 40 life, it would be 5 times, wouldn't it, really? No, 5 times 8, yeah. Quick maths. Then you keep coming down. Obviously you need sacrifice outlets. This is a great one because it's only 1 mana. Visceria Seer. Sacrifice a creature and you get to scry 1 as well. Shambling Ghast. Great card. Every time it dies, you create a creature token. Add that. As you can see, you get a few cards. Then you want to copy them. That's what I mean. There's so many decent 1 power creatures that ETB. They are amazing. Come back to your deck. Then you come to this bulk edit. And you copy and paste in. And you save it. Now the deck's coming along pretty nicely. Then you should end up with something a bit like this. So there's 171 cards that I got up to, because there's that many good creatures that ended up with 77 that I had to whittle down because they all ETB'd well, they all good. Like this Cadaver Imp. Whenever it enters the battlefield, you may return target creature card from your graveyard to your hand. Awesome. There's also this one, Death Cultist. Sacrifice Death Cultist. Target player loses 1 life and you gain 1 life. Whenever Kalsteri Healer or another ally enters the battlefield under your control, each opponent loses 1 life and you gain 1 life. See, there's so many decent ETBs that is just amazing. Ball Gnomes, sacrifice it, gain 3 life. Then what you want to do is whittle it down to your final 100. Now this can be quite hard because there's so many decent cards, but getting a clear mindset on how you want to take the deck is gonna make you produce better decks for yourself. So I knew that I wanted to have ETBs of a certain amount of them sacrificing, a certain amount of them discarding cards, a certain amount of them just having horrible effects on them every time I sacrifice or bring back. And this is my final deck. So with every deck I create, I always tag, so then I can see how many draws, discards, how many like board wipes I've got, how much graveyard recursion, all sorts of different things. So if you wanted to check the decks out that I've created, if you go in the description below, you could either print out the cards and play it and see how you feel, or you can just buy them in the links below as well, which does help the channel out. So we've got 8 board wipes, which is great. Sacrifice a creature, destroy target creature. This one here is an amazing creature, big game hunter. For only 3 mana, every time it enters the battlefield, you destroy a creature with power 4 or greater, and it can't be regenerated. This Phyrexian Plague Lord is another amazing creature. It's kind of on this one because every time you sacrifice a creature, target creature gets a -1/-1. And because you are sacrificing creatures every turn, on their turn, on your turn, you can end up killing loads of creatures within the space of a couple of turns. I can guarantee that this creature, as soon as it comes out, they're not wanting to keep on the board, so that it won't stay on the board for very long. So if you can get it out, you want to try and use it straight away, because otherwise it's going to go. Because other people don't want a -1/-1 counter on their creature. There's this one here, Tragic Slip for 1 mana, awesome. It gets -1/-1 until end of turn. Or it gets -13/-13 if a creature died this turn. Well, obviously it is going to die because you're sacrificing, and the creature gets -13/-13. And this goes past like hexproof because it just means a creature gets -13/-13 instead of destroyed. So that's great as well. Another one there, look, target creature gets -1/-1 until end of turn. Now these are great creature tokens. So every time we kill a creature, we get a token. Ogre Slumlord, great card. Whenever another non-token creature dies, you may create a 1/1 black rat creature token. Rats you control have death touch. So you'll be sacrificing loads of creatures, and you can create loads of rats with death touch. Awesome. This Lightning Coil is also an amazing card. Whenever a non-token creature you control is put into the graveyard from play, put a charge counter on Lightning Coils. At the beginning of your upkeep, if Lightning Coils has 5 or more charge counters on it, remove all of them from it and put that many 3/1 red elemental creature tokens with haste into the play. Remove them from the game at the end of step. So say you've got 4 creatures on the battlefield, you sacrifice them on your turn, that's 4 counters. You sacrifice them on the other 3 opponents, that's another 4 each time. So that's 16 counters that you've got on Lightning Coils by the time it comes round to your turn again. You take all them off, that is 16 counters, the 16 3/1 elemental creatures with haste that you can just go straight onto other people. It's a great card. This one here gives a bit of ramp. Pawn of Olgamoth. Whenever a non-token creature you control is put in the graveyard from the battlefield, create a 0/1 colourless Eldrazi spawn creature token and put it onto the battlefield. If you sacrifice it, you get 1 colourless mana. Great stuff. So from them 77 creatures, I ended up with 36. And all of them got their own special abilities. So obviously we kept this one. Whenever it goes into graveyard, each opponent sacrifices 1 creature. I get to draw with this one. This one here gets people to discard a card. Eldfang Disciple. There's another one here, Elvish Doomsayer, does exactly the same. Festering Mummy, whenever it dies, put a 1/1 counter on target creature. That isn't till end of turn either, so you can keep putting these 1/1 counters on creatures, which is great. Then there's ones that give us that gives us treasure tokens, so then that's a bit of ramp. Then there's ones like Sling Gang Lieutenant. When Sling Gang Lieutenant enters the battlefield, create 2 1/1 red goblin creature tokens. Amazing. Even more things we can sacrifice. Obviously we've got a sacrifice outlet, Carrion Feeder, Viscera Seer. We also have Sai Conrad the Grim, great card. Whenever another creature dies or a creature card is put into the graveyard from anywhere other than the battlefield, or a creature card leaves your graveyard, it deals 1 damage to each opponent. Well, as I keep saying, we're sacrificing them, they're going into the graveyard, coming out the graveyard, and then back onto the battlefield. So not only do they get 1 damage for going into the graveyard, they also get 1 damage for it coming back out the graveyard. It is definitely a must-have in this deck. Then we've got 11 draw spells. Obviously, like this one here is great. You just pay 1 swamp, and you can sacrifice any amount of creatures that you've got on your board. and the target player draws that many cards, and then gains that much life, and then puts that many 1/1 counters on Krav the Unredeemed. That is an amazing card, just for 1 mana. Sacrifice your whole board, well, all the creatures that you want to sacrifice, draw that many cards, gain that much life, and create a massive creature at the same time. And you do that 4 times going around, you might as well attack with that, and you can maybe kill someone if you can get through. Oh, it's just amazing. We've got this one, Grim Horror-Specs. Whenever another creature, non-token creature you control dies, draw a card. Well, awesome, we're going to be drawing loads of cards every turn. Bit of equipment, we want our commander to stay out, because that is, if the commander's not out, we can sacrifice all we want, but they ain't coming back. Dark Privilege, basically sacrifice a creature, regenerate enchanted creature, which is awesome. Someone destroys it, we just sacrifice one of our creatures, and then obviously we can regenerate our commander. Same as this, but we just pay 1 mana, regenerates. A bit of hexproof. Blessing of Leeches is an amazing enchanted creature. When you may play it at any time, you can play an instant, which is great. At the beginning of your upkeep, you lose 1 life. 1 life is absolutely no compared to the life that we could gain, and it's 0 to regenerate enchanted creature. For 79 pence, this card, or $79, whatever you want, 79 cents, whatever you want to call it, is an amazing a card just to have to keep our commander around. Then we've got a bit of Graveyard Recursion, just in case we don't have that and we have to bring it back. Whisper Blood Lutrugist, I think it's called. Sacrifice 2 creatures, return target creature card from your graveyard to the battlefield, which is great. Just sacrifice a couple of creatures, bring our commander back. This here is amazing. It is one of our win cons, we'll come to that in a little bit. Ended up with 34 lands. Generally, most of my decks end up with 34 because I kind of find that's the sweet spot. This has got great benefits to it. Witch's Cottage. When it enters the battlefield untapped, you may put target creature card from your graveyard on top of your library. Great, another way to bring our commander back if needed. This Bogchuka. Whenever it enters the battlefield, exile target player's graveyard. We want to get rid of people's graveyards. So we've got a bit of life gain. Obviously, if we're going to be losing life, then we want to gain it at the same time. Got all sorts of creatures in here, which are great. Now we've got this Segregated Scorpion. Whenever a Scorpion dies, it deals 2 damage to each opponent and you gain 2 life. Awesome. Then we've got like Vindictive Vampire. Whenever another creature you control dies, it deals 1 damage to each opponent and you gain 1 life. Great stuff. We're going to be gaining loads of life and they're going to be losing loads of life. Got 3 mana rocks. Didn't think we needed a lot. A bit of, like I say, opponent hate. We love a bit of opponent hate. This deck is generally, if you're going to get a target, you will get a target on your back, basically, because you're going to be doing not very nice things to other opponents. Again, a bit of protection we had before. This is a great card. Supernatural Stamina. If they decide that they want to get rid of it, we have to just play this. It's only 1 and it's instant. Until end of turn, target creature gets +2/+0 and gains whenever this creature dies. Return it to the battlefield tapped under its owner's control. Amazing. Got a bit 10 ramp. This Black Market is amazing. Whenever a creature dies, put a charge counter on Black Market. Well, if we can get this out, say turn, well, if you've done a bit of ramp, maybe turn 3, turn 4. Then by turn 5, we're sacrificing creatures. We are sacrificing every turn. Even if other people's creatures have died, we then, at the beginning of our pre-combat main phase, we add 1 swamp to our mana pool for each charge counter on Black Market. The card itself is $5.99, which is a little bit expensive, but it's definitely a great add to give us loads of ramp in the deck. This card is great. So say if you can go around once, you end up with 4 treasures, which then can end up bringing out other cards as well, which is great. This one's good. Whenever you tap a swamp for mana, add an additional 1 swamp. It is a bit steep at 6 mana, but if you can cheat this in early, then yeah, great. 14 different sacrifice outlets. This could be instances where you want to sacrifice creatures like this. Altar's Reap. As an additional cost to cast Altar's Reap, sacrifice a creature, draw 2 cards. Great. This is Smothering Abomination. I found that if this is out, you can end up drawing like a ridiculous amount of cards. It does have at the beginning of your upkeep, sacrifice a creature, which obviously means you can draw a card at your upkeep every time. Whenever you sacrifice a creature, draw a card. It is great, as I say, but you end up drawing a ton of cards, so be careful when this is out how many times you're going to sacrifice, because you could end up drawing. Then there is this here, Flesh Eater Imp, amazing card. Sacrifice a creature, it gains +1/+1 till end of turn, but the card itself has Infect, and it's got Flying. Nice. So we've got target opponent loses life, got all different ways. They say, look, Blood Artist, whenever this or another creature dies, target player loses 1 life and you gain 1 life. Well, amazing. We're going to be sacrificing loads, so they're going to lose loads of life and we're going to gain loads. Same as the support, same as this, Zealport, Cutthroat. Whenever that or another creature you control dies, each opponent loses 1 life and you gain 1 life. Got loads of different ways of them losing life, which is great. Now we get on to the win cons. The win con, number 1, without doing any combos, is you have your commander out. Then you can get out hopefully this Zealport Cutthroat, and then you have a sacrifice outlet. So there's your 3 main key opponents. As long as they're out, you can do loads of damage and you can sacrifice and you can do what you need to do. So then if you have things like this, the Scorpion out, the Gatekeeper out, this Dusk Legion Zilholt, and Elvish Doomsayer, and this Gleaming Barrier out. If you've got all these cards out, you are basically in a position that you can win the game very quickly. This Gleaming Barrier gives you treasure tokens, so you can obviously get more cards out, a bit of ramp. This Elvish Doomsayer makes them discard cards. This gets you to draw cards, this Dusk. The Gatekeeper gets them to sacrifice creatures, and this Scorpion gets them to lose 2 life and you gain 2 life. Imagine if you had them 5 out. Every turn you were sacrificing and bringing them back. You would end up with a great board state, great amount of ramp, they'll lose loads of life, you'll be able to draw cards, and they'll be sacrificing cards. And they'll be sacrificing creatures, should I say, and discarding cards. The second win con, I just had to do it. This Flesh Eater Imp, if you can sacrifice creatures to then obviously get the 1/1 counters on the Flesh Eater, all you need to do is get 10 counters. So if you've got this out as well, this Blight Mound, it says whenever a non-token creature you control dies, create a 1/1 black and green pest creature token with when this creature dies you gain 1 life. You've got 5 creatures out, sacrifice all them, you end up with 5 ETBs from this, creating 1/1 black and green pests. Sacrifice all them, your Flesh Eater ends up being a 12/12 flying infect that if you just swing at one person, if they've got no blockers, they're gonna die instantly. Then when it comes back around to your turn, you can just do the same thing, sacrifice them 5 creatures, sacrifice them 5 pests. Then you've got another creature that's 12/12 with Infect, even though you only need 10, just give them a couple extra. Attack them, then they get damaged, straight away die. So they're the win cons without being combos. Now if you can't seem to get them going and rolling, then maybe these ones are the way to win. What you need on the board is Liliana's Untouched by Death, with at least 3 counters on it. What you do is you take away the 3 counters, so it means you can cast zombie spells from your graveyard to your graveyard on your turn. There's a couple of ways you can do it. You can either have this Visceria Seers out, so you can sacrifice Shambling Ghast, because once you sacrifice Shambling Ghasts, it says create a treasure token. So then that gives you that 1 to bring it back from the graveyard. So you can keep doing that. So then if you had Ogre Slumlord out, you could then create a massive infinite board of just 1/1 rat creature tokens, and then next turn you could smash everyone's faces. Or if you decided to have a Blood Artist out, which then obviously every time Shambling Casts died, you then get 1 life and other opponents lose 1 life. And the same as this, this is a mean card. If you didn't have this Visceria, the vampire out, what you do is this Phyrexian Plague Lord. Every time you sacrifice a creature, all their creatures get -1/-1 till end of turn. So not only are you then, you know, creating a massive army, say you only had this Ogre Slumlord out, you're creating a massive army, infinite of like rats, you're also taking -1/-1 off of every creature. So you are doing a board wipe on every single creature on the board that's not yours. So then when you come to next turn, you can just go and kill everyone anyway. Combo winning number 2. What you need to do is you have 2 mana floating, so you have 2 colourless mana. You then have Sling Gang Lieutenant on the board, where you have all these cards on the board. You sacrifice the Sling Gang Lieutenant to the Ashnod's altar. That gives you the 4 colourless mana you need. Then this Nim Death Mantle says, whenever a non-token creature is put into your graveyard from the battlefield, you may pay 4. If you do, return that card to the battlefield and attach this card to it. So, what you do then is you obviously bring back this Sling Gang Lieutenant. It gives you 2 creature tokens, and then what you do is you sacrifice one of the tokens and then Sling Gang Lieutenant, and then that gives you the 4 mana that you need. So not only will that then give you infinite colourless mana, it'll also give you infinite 1/1 red goblin creature tokens. It will also give you infinite life gain and infinite loss of life to the opponents. Because you sacrifice a goblin, each player loses 1 life and you gain 1 life. So with just these 3 combo here, you can win the game very, 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 very easily. And that's it for the deck tech. Now, once we have our cards and we think, yep, that's exactly how we want the deck, we then we come over to Commander Spellbook. We put our deck into the Find My Combos. And as you can see, this is where I've got a couple of the combos from, because I'm using this Nim Death Mantle, which obviously, as I just said, it creates infinite creature tokens. Each opponent loses life. Colourless mana, infinite death triggers, infinite sacrifice triggers, infinite life gain triggers, infinite life lost. Awesome. Same as Liliana, Untouched by Death, and Shambling Ghast, and Carrion Feeder. Though infinite 1/1 counters on Carrion Feeder, which is great, which then it can be massive and hopefully kill someone. So this is where I got the combos from. As I say, look, infinite TVs. If you add this onto this, you can then keep bringing out more and more creature tokens. And if you feel like there isn't the combos that you need or the cards that you want, you can always come down a bit further and there's potential combos. If you add these to the deck, you can then add, obviously, more combos. It's entirely up to you. I thought them 2 there were great with the other win cons. Didn't really need many more. I was quite happy with them 2. Just because the deck itself, every single turn, you're sacrificing and bring it back, sacrifice and bring it back. So you're doing a lot and you're really potentially being able to kill people without having combos. So them 2 there were just, if people kept on, being nasty and not letting you play your cards. How dare they? Rule number 3. No mercy. We don't apologise. So if they're playing the game to win, that's exactly how we want it to be. We want to play to win. They need to play to win. And at the end of the day, we're having fun. We're having fun trying to smack each other's faces. It's great. Then we go on to the proxies. This is by far the best site I've found. It's MTG Print. You put all the cards into there. You press Add Cards. And then they come up here. As you can see, they're all great. Depending on what sort of one you want, you could always change the picture. So you could always click on it. And then, obviously, that one doesn't have one. Say, Bastion of Remembrance. See if this has got different cards. There we go. So if you wanted to, say, change the style, then what you do is just click on it. And then you change it, say, okay, I want this one, this Warhammer one. Looks better out. Come off it. Then you just press download to PDF. And then it comes onto like A4 pieces of paper. You just chop them up into, obviously, the card shapes, which is like this. Then you get a card that you don't use, you put it into a sleeve. You just put it in front of the card. So then it feels like the proper cards that you're playing with. And hey presto, you've got your 100 cards like that, you shuffle them up, you play it, then you don't waste money. Rule number 2, we do not want to waste money. We proxy the cards so we can play the deck and think, you know what, this deck needs something else. I need to add this and this and this. And until you're absolutely 100% sure, you think, right, okay, that's great. Then you go and buy the cards. Don't waste your money buying cards and think, shit, that doesn't play right. This is a good and cheap and simple way of doing it. So then when you buy the cards, you are 100% happy. Not everyone likes playing proxies, not everyone likes playing against proxies. Just make sure when you're playing other people that you're telling them, look, I've got proxies, I'm just testing the deck out. And then once I'm happy with the deck, I'm going to buy the cards. And that's it. Shirei Shizo's Caretaker deck completed. There is a Patreon link in the description below if you want to support the channel. If you want to buy the cards, the link is also in the description. And if you want to watch another deck tech, then watch this video next.